Hello and welcome and namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The Kremlin insists that Ukraine will have to give up the Donbas region entirely for the war to end, ahead of a key first-time trilateral meeting involving Moscow, Kyiv and the US in Abu Dhabi. NATO and Denmark's leaders agree in Brussels that the transatlantic alliance must step up efforts to strengthen security in the Arctic region. And the French government survives the first vote of no confidence in Parliament on Friday, which had been called by the opposition over a row related to its 2026 budget. But first up, Russia-Ukraine officials will hold their first trilateral meeting with US officials in the United Arab Emirates, where talks will continue in military-to-military working groups. US negotiators, including Steve Witkoff and US President's son-in-law Jared Kushner, are headed for Abu Dhabi, while Russian delegation headed by General Igor Kutsiukov, director of Russia's GRU military intelligence agency, will also be reaching there. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had announced that the meetings would take place on the 23rd and 24th of this month. Further details of the talks in the United Arab Emirates have not been released, and it's not clear whether Russian and Ukrainian officials will meet face-to-face. Earlier, President Zelensky had said that he would only travel to Davos if he could sign agreements with Trump on US security guarantees and post-conflict reconstruction funding for Ukraine, but there was no indication after the meeting that a breakthrough had been made. The two leaders have met around half a dozen times face-to-face since Trump returned to the White House last year and upended US policy on Ukraine by embracing diplomacy with Russia. But Russia said it was not dropping its key demand that Ukraine pull out of its eastern Donbas region ahead of three-way talks between Ukrainian, Russian and American officials or representatives in the UAE later on Friday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said territory remained the key issue and would be on the agenda for the talks, which look set to be the first direct public negotiations between Moscow and Kyiv on a plan being pushed by US President Donald Trump to end the conflict. Now, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen is set to visit Greenland's capital Nuuk on Friday for talks with the island's leadership. Frederiksen arrives from Brussels, where she held discussions with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. The talks came after Rutte said he had reached a framework understanding with Trump in Davos on Greenland. Both the leaders agreed that NATO must step up efforts to strengthen security in the Arctic region. So, US President Donald Trump has announced a deal over Greenland, but the attempted unfriendly takeover has left its mark on Denmark and even some other European nations. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle, is joining me from Berlin to talk about it. Good afternoon, Lars. What can you tell us about this, well, détente, but not really?
Indeed, there are financial consequences being taken on the continent. And Danish pension fund Akademiker Pension has announced that they will be divesting from US government bonds. They are in fact selling their entire position by the end of January. Now, officially, the fund says this is not a political decision. Instead, they're saying, quote, the decision stems from the poor state of US public finances and that they need to seek an alternative approach. However, the fund's investment director allowed that the current political developments, again, I quote, of course, didn't make the decision any more difficult. Also, Swedish pension fund Alecta just announced that they've sold most of its holdings in US treasuries over the last year, quote, because of the increased risk and unpredictability of US politics. Now, to put this divestment into perspective, The Swedish fund sold around $7 billion worth of bonds, and Academica Pension manages approximately 22 billion euros. The sale of the US bonds represents a relatively small portion of the overall portfolio, so one has to realize that this is mostly a symbolic move.
All right, but how serious are these developments for the US itself?
They're definitely to be taken very seriously, especially since the Swedish and the Danish fund might be the only ones taking action right now, but others have debated a divestment from the US as well. In fact, a bond market analyst for Deutsche Bank has just come out suggesting that European investors sell US government bonds. He says that the continent is the largest creditor of the US. European countries hold US bonds and stocks worth around $8 trillion. That's almost twice as much as the rest of the world combined. Now, a capital outflow of these proportions would put immense pressure on US bond prices and drive up yields. This would further increase interest costs for the US government at a time when US President Trump already demands lower interest rates. Now, some other analysts are saying, however, that weaponizing the bond market this way could be extremely dangerous, not only to the US, but to investors too. And even Deutsche Bank says that they do not intend to follow their analysts' recommendation. But it's worth pointing out that Deutsche Bank's CEO actually got a call from the US Treasury Secretary to discuss this. So it's clear that Washington is aware of these ideas bubbling up and that they're worried about it.
And last then, are these financial actions or threats against the US limited to the banking sector, or is there more to it?
Not at all. In fact, in Denmark, there's also a movement to boycott, or at least to avoid as good as possible goods made in the United States. It has gone so far as apps being developed to help consumers find out where a product at any given supermarket or store has been made. One app called Uden USA, or Without USA, has in fact made it to the top of the list in the Danish App Store. And that particular program has a database of products telling consumers if a product was made in the US and imported to Denmark. And it also suggests then alternative products, as do some of the country's supermarkets, by the way, that have started putting stickers up to identify US products. Now, as much as this is a sign of the Danish people's anger over recent US policy, it is unlikely to actually have much of an effect on the US economy. Denmark is a rather small country with only 6 million people. There are cities in the US that are bigger. So even a total boycott in Denmark would not make much of a dent here.
Right, but if other European nations start joining in, it will hurt the US. Well, let's see how things go. Lars, thank you for joining us from Berlin. Now, TikTok's owner ByteDance has finalized a deal to create a majority American-owned joint venture. The move is aimed at avoiding a US ban on the popular app, which is used by more than 200 million Americans. The deal is a milestone for the short video app after years of battles that began in August 2020, when President Trump first tried unsuccessfully to ban the app over national security concerns. The company said the new entity, TikTok USDS Joint Venture LLC, will protect US user data, the app and its algorithm through stronger privacy and cybersecurity measures. The agreement provides for American and global investors to hold a stake of 80.1% in the new joint venture, while ByteDance will retain 19.9%. And Donald Trump has expressed his satisfaction over the recent deal, allowing TikTok to continue operating in the US under a majority American-owned structure. In a post on Truth Social, his own microblogging site, Trump said he was so happy to have helped saving TikTok, noting that the platform will now be controlled by a group of great American patriots and investors, and described it as an important voice for users. Now, US immigration authorities have detained at least 4 children, including a 5-year-old from a Minneapolis area school district, this month as part of Donald Trump's immigration crackdown. In separate enforcement actions, authorities detained a 10-year-old and 2 17-year-old students, including incidents that occurred while the students were traveling to school. In one case, 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos was taken by agents after they detained his father outside their home as they were returning from preschool. City officials said the child appeared frightened and confused during the encounter.
And I saw several vehicles kind of blocking half the road, and I saw a man standing by a running vehicle in a driveway being detained by agents that were unnamed, masked. I assume they were ICE agents. And I saw them put the man into the back of an SUV, and there was several agents doing that, and there was a little boy there. He was wearing a blue hat and had a really tiny backpack on, and then they quickly put him in the back seat and drove away.
The French government survived a first vote of no confidence in Parliament on Friday that had been called over its decision to ram through the income part of the 2026 budget without giving the National Assembly the final say. The motion filed by the hard-left France Unbowed Party was backed by 269 members of Parliament. 288 votes were needed for the motion to pass. France has been unable to pass a budget for 2026, prompting French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu to invoke a controversial constitutional Article 49.3 known as the nuclear option on Tuesday to end the impasse. Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi Sanae dissolved Parliament on Friday ahead of a snap election on the 8th of February, counting on her cabinet's high poll numbers. The country's first woman premier had announced her intentions on Monday, seeking public backing for measures to shield households from rising living costs and increased spending on defense. Takaichi is hoping widespread support for her cabinet will help deliver her a stronger mandate, even though the LDP itself is battling low approval ratings and a string of scandals. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news around the world as well. Well, global K-pop sensation BTS is set to return to the spotlight with a new album and world tour after a break of more than 3 years. The 7-member group, which paused activities in 2022 due to South Korea's mandatory military service, will release its new album Ararang in March. The coffin of legendary Italian fashion designer Valentino Garavini arrived on Friday at Rome's Basilica of St. Mary for the Angels and Martyrs, where a funeral ceremony was held in his honor. Mourners gathered outside the historic basilica with red floral wreaths lining the entrance and honor guards standing by as crowds paid their respects. Kyiv Zoo has turned to wood-burning stoves to keep animals warm as power and heating outages continue amid the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Zoo enclosures housing animals such as gorillas, elephants, snakes and chameleons are being heated using traditional stoves to maintain safe temperatures during winter conditions. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Indian fields bloom with mustard flowers as the festival of Basant Panchami marks the arrival of spring. And India will look to extend their series lead when they take on New Zealand in the second T20 International at Raipur.
Every time I open my wardrobe, I wonder how many of these clothes do I actually need? So today, let's step into a world where our fashion does not have to come at the cost of the environment.
We make sure that we don't waste a single piece of clothing. We use up all the scraps as well, gathering them into balls and making different products with them.
Consumers think that if they don't buy it now, they're going to regret it tomorrow.
Instead of having a linear thing where you produce something that never degrades and then you just end up having it in the landfill, you biosource it, you use it, and then it biodegrades and gets back to nature.
We use natural dyes for the garments. We extract the dye the way our ancestors did by using natural products with some modifications.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated laid foundation stones and flagged off multiple development projects in Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. The projects cover rail connectivity, urban livelihoods, science and innovation. The initiatives highlight the government's focus on inclusive growth, technology-driven development and better quality of life for citizens. During the visit, the Prime Minister launched the PM Swanidhi credit card to strengthen urban livelihoods. PM Swanidhi loans were dispersed to 100,000 beneficiaries, including street vendors from Kerala. Now, the scheme enables first-time access to formal credit for a large number of beneficiaries and has played a key role in poverty alleviation and livelihood security among urban informal workers. During the event, the PM also highlighted the hardships street vendors once faced and how the PM Swanidhi scheme will help improve their lives.
जो लोग सड़कों के किनारे गलियों में सामान बेचते हैं, इन स्ट्रीट वेंडर्स की स्थिति भी पहले बहुत बुरी थी। उन्हें सामान खरीदने के लिए कुछ 100 रुपये भी महंगे ब्याज पर लेने पड़ते थे। केंद्र सरकार ने पहली बार इनके लिए पीएम स्वनिधि स्कीम बनाई। इस स्कीम के बाद देश भर में लाखों साथियों को बैंकों से बहुत मदद मिली है। लाखों स्ट्रीट वेंडर्स को जिंदगी में पहली बार बैंक से कोई लोन मिला है।
On this Republic Day, India's Republic Day on the 26th of January, 30 vibrant tableaus will grace Kartavya Path. The tableau of West Bengal is centered around the overarching national theme for 2026, 150 years of Vande Mataram. It highlights Bengal's struggle for independence and its pioneering role in the freedom movement, especially through the lens of the national song. Vande Mataram was composed by Bengali scholar Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. The tableau is designed to be a blend of literary history and revolutionary zeal. Now, Punjab Police's State Special Operations Cell has conducted a major operation on Friday, leading to the arrest of a Khalistani terrorist ahead of Republic Day. A hand grenade, a pistol and live ammunition were recovered from the accused. The arrested individual is linked to the Babbar Khalsa International BKI terrorist group. Indian authorities have flagged a fresh disinformation campaign after Pakistani propaganda handles circulated a digitally manipulated video falsely attributed to Indian Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi. According to the Press Information Bureau's fact-check unit, the viral clip is a deep fake, misleadingly showing the Army Chief claiming that India is opposing Pakistan's inclusion in a so-called Gaza Peace Board. The PIB has clarified that the video has been digitally altered to create confusion on India's foreign policy stance. Officials have urged citizens to remain cautious, verify content from official sources, and avoid sharing unverified videos circulating on social media. There has been heavy snowfall in Srinagar on Friday, disrupting normal life, forcing the closure of key highways and cancellation of over 20 flights at the Srinagar International Airport. Light to moderate snowfall has been reported in the plains, while upper reaches have seen heavy accumulation, with Kupwara and Kulgam districts receiving up to 3 feet of snow in some areas. Power supply has been disrupted following strong winds, and authorities have imposed travel restrictions in tourist areas like Gulmarg. Disaster management teams remain on alert as snow clearing operations remain on. Dubai is set to make global exhibition history as Gulfood hosts India as its partner country for the first time and becomes the first exhibition to operate simultaneously across 2 mega venues. The world's largest annual food and beverage event will run from the 26th to the 30th of this month at the Dubai World Trade Center and the newly expanded Dubai Exhibition Center at the Expo City, Dubai. India's participation at Gulfood 2026 marks a significant milestone, with 161 exhibitors showcasing the nation's diverse agri-food ecosystem. Key highlight is the Bharati Pavilion, The pavilion is Agricultural and Processed Fruit Products Export Development Authority's flagship initiative to promote export-ready agri-food and agri-tech startups. The event brings together more than 8,500 exhibitors showcasing 1.5 million products from 195 countries, including many first-time participants. Swami Vivekanand Cultural Centre, the cultural arm of the High Commission of India and Sri Lanka, observed Parakram Divas in honour of the legacy of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Members of the Indian diaspora and Deputy High Commissioner Dr. Satyanjal Pandey paid floral tributes at the ceremonial event commemorating the freedom fighters' courage and dedication. The centre, in collaboration with the Indian Cultural Association, also organised the Saraswati Puja on the occasion of Basant Panchami. The events highlighted the enduring cultural and historical ties between India and Sri Lanka while promoting Indian traditions among the local community. The annual Saraswati Puja celebrations began on Friday as well at Dhaka University's Jagannath Hall, with worship taking place at 76 pavilions set up by students from different departments. Devotees offered prayers, flowers and arti from the morning, marking Sri Panchami, dedicated to Goddess Saraswati, deity of knowledge and music. The two-day celebrations include puja rituals, cultural programs, prasad distribution and a blood donation drive, continuing Jagannath Hall's tradition as the main hub of Saraswati Puja at the university. Now, amid extreme cold and snowfall in Leh, the Khelo India Winter Games continue under challenging conditions. Gulfood Lake has completely frozen, turning into a natural venue where athletes are competing in ice skating at temperatures ranging between -10 and -12 degrees Celsius. Battling strong winds, low oxygen levels and slippery ice. Here's a ground report from DD India's Abhishek Prasad from the Gulfood Lake in Leh.
I'm currently standing here at the frozen Gulfood Lake in Leh, where the Khelo India Winter Games is taking place, and this is where the ice skating competition was taking place some moments ago, but due to the extreme cold, the games has now been postponed for a while now. Strong winds are blowing. The moment you take off your gloves from your hand, you face numbness. This is the frozen lake. It's a natural ice. You can see it freezes in winter conditions, and in summer it melts. But you can see it's snowing lightly, and there's extreme cold in this weather, but athletes are showing up. They are showing up in this harsh condition despite being so extreme cold, and an oxygen level is also low. It's quite slippery here, and you can see behind me is now the competitions have been stopped, but it will take place at a later date. But what it shows that the Khelo India Winter Games is truly on a spirit where athletes, despite harsh conditions, there is extreme cold, they have come and they have showed up in the Khelo India Winter Games. With cameraman Jagmohan Pradhan, Abhishek Prasad in Leh, DD India.
Really cold out there in Leh at the moment, with strong winds as well, taking the chill factor up. Now, India will look to extend their series lead when they take on New Zealand in the second T20 International in Raipur on Friday. Led by Suryakumar Yadav, the men in blue come in high on confidence after a dominant win in the first match, where they posted a massive 238 despite losing the toss. The only concern for India is the fitness of vice captain Akshar Patel, who injured his finger in the first game. New Zealand face a tough challenge against an Indian side which has won 10 T20I series or tournaments in a row, including the World Cup and the Asia Cup. India is celebrating Basant Panchami today, and the next few days will be filled with enthusiasm, with nature blooming to its best. The festival of Basant Panchami is dedicated to the worship of Goddess Saraswati, the deity of knowledge as well as music. DD India's Adamya Mishra brings us more.
Basant Panchami marks the end of the winter season and the arrival of spring, symbolizing the confluence of nature and knowledge. Celebrated on the 5th day of the bright fortnight of the Hindu month of Magh, the festival brings visible transformation in nature. Greenery spreads across the landscape, colorful flowers bloom, and the atmosphere is filled with renewed energy and enthusiasm. Fields covered with yellow mustard flowers and trees adorned with vibrant blossoms become a defining feature of the day, while the weather turns pleasant, offering a perfect balance between winter and summer. Basant Panchami is not only a celebration of nature but also holds deep spiritual significance, as it is dedicated to the worship of Goddess Saraswati, the deity of knowledge, wisdom, art and music. The color yellow, symbolic of the spring season, dominates the celebrations. Wearing yellow attire, offering yellow flowers and presenting yellow-colored prasad are important traditions observed on this occasion. The day also holds special religious importance, as Basant Panchami is considered highly auspicious for beginning any new work. Adamya Mishra's report for DD India.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code on the screen to download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.